right. We are broadcasting live. So now's the time where you definitely don't want to take off your shirt and just do, a nice dance for the camera. Or maybe you do, Phil. Up to you.
Yeah, I'll save it. I'll save it for later. Be a little surprised if I'm feeling inspired.
Amazing, dude. Cool. So we've got a bunch of participants who have jumped on now. People who are probably quite familiar with you and not with me. So let's kick it for another 2 minutes or so while people continue to join us, and then we'll jump in.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, welcome everyone who's just coming in. Good to see you guys. Let me see if I can see some names. All right. See, we've got Fadi, Gildas is here, Mendy, Mark, Mikhail, Nicola, Rodriguez, Sarah, TJ. What's up, brother? Good to see you here. William is here. Yasaman. Antonio just came in. Welcome, welcome. Good to see everybody. What I would love before we start, if you guys could go in the chat box and let us know where in the world you are right now, that would be awesome. Where are you taking this call? I'm in Boulder. Jacob, you are in?
I'm in BK all day, aka Brooklyn.
So yeah, just go in the chat box and let us know where you are in the world so we can see how worldwide this webinar is going right now.
I'm going to get in there myself. Brooklyn. We've got Wales, UK. Awesome. Hi, Nicola. Someone else is from, I don't know how to say that, Namibia.
Namibia. That's awesome.
Where that is, Phil?
Yeah, it's in Africa. I don't know where exactly. That's awesome to have Africa represented. We got Brighton, UK. We got Iran in the house. What's up? Auckland, New Zealand. We got another participant in Brooklyn. Compton, CA. What's up? That's awesome. I always love seeing this. And guys, this is the moment where I always take a moment to just presence myself to the fact that there's literally people from all over the world, and somehow through this technology, we're able to connect and have this experience together. And it's so easy to take this for granted, and it's so easy to criticize technology for some of the bad things it can do to us. But there's such great advantages, like this moment that we can come into a powerful space and share wisdom from one another. So thanks for making the time and joining us in this virtual party.
Right on. Yeah, I'm pumped to dive in. And I was taking a moment to also ground myself in that reality as you were sharing, Phil, and just have a deep appreciation for everyone who took the time to join us today, because what that shows me is that you're committed to your own growth and your fulfillment. And as a result of you being willing to do whatever scale of work you are in your growth and fulfillment, you ultimately help create a more fulfilled world through your own example. And I couldn't be more honored that I get to be here and support you guys and share my own journey and the wisdom I've picked up along the way that has helped transform my life and has actually brought me and Phil together on this path.
Absolutely. And, on that note, and then we'll dive into our sort of introduction. We know that there's a million other things you could be doing right now. I know for some of you, it's probably pretty late into the night, and, you could be hanging out with friends, having a beer, watching TV, all this stuff, which honestly might be easier, might be more comfortable. And you're the kind of person who's willing to say, I'm going to go do a virtual training, learn from these guys, and I want to make my life better, and I'm willing to work for it. That's awesome. And, maybe for you, it's like, yeah, of course, that's how I roll, but that makes you very special. Not a lot of people have the dedication to do that. So much respect from me to you. And it's good to be between friends and like-minded people on here.
Right on, right on. Well, I think with all the hugging and kissing that we've done, I think maybe it's time to jump in.
Yeah, well, let's do it. So now that we've shared this, I want to start by introducing the other men on the screen that you can see. So that's my man, Jacob Sokol, is joining us today from his place in Brooklyn. And Jacob is one of my closest friends, not just some internet friend, but actually one of my brothers. We've been friends for about 5 years now. We started our blogs around the same time. When I started the Feel Good Lifestyle, he was just starting out with Sensophy. And I found his stuff, and I thought it was really cool. So we organized a Skype call, and I was really shy back then. So I was like, oh, man, I hope this guy replies to my email. It's like, please be friends with me. And we jumped on Skype, had a great conversation. Ever since, we've been sort of the brother in arms of, building our companies, building ourselves. step by step. And it's been so great to have someone alongside that can understand our successes, our challenges, our confusion, and to be able to bounce ideas off each other. So definitely soul brothers, and someone that I think we both feel that deep appreciation, and hopefully you have someone like that in your life that has been walking the path with you. And Jacob, over the years, I've seen him evolve, and now he's definitely one of the people I call when I'm feeling confused or unclear, just life doesn't fully make sense to me. And as I shared in my email, life is really difficult when we're unclear. It's like the world doesn't make sense. We have a vague idea of where we're trying to go, but we're not sure. We're not sure how to get there. And that's really from that place of lack of clarity, we get frustrated, we get almost depressed, and we have the tendency to turn to comfort, to pleasure through alcohol, drugs, food, porn, whatever your poison is, because our current reality doesn't make sense, so we need something to hang on to. And Jacob is just one of those guys who's masterful at helping us see both internally what kind of blockages might be stopping us from moving forward, what might be stopping us from seeing the truth of our situation, where we're trying to go, what kind of illusions, fears, resistance, and then to also make moves in the physical world to move forward. So he's definitely someone I'm honored to have, on my team, in my corner, and super excited to see what he has to share with us today. By the way, I'll be taking notes as well. I'll be, in here learning from him as well. So without further ado, I want to introduce my main man, Jacob Sokol. Take it away, my man.
Thank you for the introduction, my brother. And yeah, it's funny when you're like, Jacob's one of my best friends. I'm like, really? That's amazing. Like I of course share the same sentiment with you, but just such an honor that, we've developed this soul brotherhood. And yeah, to see you continuously doing your growth, even when it doesn't look like growth to the outside world, when it's like the deeper inner game processing that I was so courageous of you to do, because you are, an achiever, you've an Olympic athlete, right? Like you're rewarded for hitting goals and milestones, and to see you really slow down and really do that deep inner game work. It's let me know that we'll be on this path together quite some time.
Thank you.
So yeah, guys, thank you for joining. I'm honored I get to be here and share with you guys. And I'm going to actually share my screen so that you can see some of these slides that I put together. Phil, you can feel free to, take your audio off or your video off, and then your shirt off or your pants off, whatever makes you feel at home. And yeah, so the title of today's presentation, The Fast Path to Creating Clarity, Shifting Stuckness, and Destroying Self-Doubt. That's a huge promise, right? There's some huge words here that I know that we all like, oh man, if that could happen, that would be amazing. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to dive into this, and I'm going to share with you, I've been all in on personal development for at least the last 10 years. And this is the best stuff. When I thought about how do I help people with these topics, these are the things that, I've seen radically change my own life, my clients' life, etc. So let's jump in. Here's what we're going to go through today. You'll learn the 3 golden principles that will help shift stuckness and create clarity. We're going to talk about the 5 fast path questions to stop doubting your ideas and start moving forward. We'll go into how to follow the homeboy, Albert Einstein's easy-to-use strategy for problem solving. I don't think Albert Einstein ever imagined he'd be called a homeboy, but nonetheless, he's our homeboy today. And the number 1 mistake that keeps you in fear and stops you from playing a bigger game with better results. So we've got our work cut out for us. Let's jump in. And we're going to start with an annoying truth. That's my annoying truth face. Gloria Steinem, she has this quote, the truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off. Okay, so if you noticed yourself getting pissed off at all in today's webinar, there might be some truth there. We're going to start with this annoying truth. The amount of breakthrough that is available to you right now is directly proportionate to how present you are. So the amount of insight, aha, breakthrough that is available to you right now is in equal proportion to how present you are. So what are 3 things that you could do right now to get a little bit more present? Whether that's, closing Facebook or email or any open browser tabs, turning off your notifications on your phone, putting your pet in the other room, whatever that might look like for you, really anything that can suck your awareness from you. Okay. And there's a deeper reason that we allow these things to happen. And that's part of an inner game conversation that perhaps we'll go into later. But for now, we want you to get as present as possible, because that's where the clarity is going to come from. Not from the future, not from the past. It's going to come from right here. And however much awareness we can bring is however much insight is available to you. So what is cracking? I am Jacob. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and come back to full screen here. But a little bit about me. I'm assuming most of you guys don't know who I am. To give you the short story, I had a really good job in kind of Times Square, New York. I was in my early 20s, and I had finally kind of proven to myself and to society that I could do the things that would make me successful. And in fact, I was quite successful. I had a nice car, a nice apartment in New York, had a motorcycle. Occasionally I had sex. That was awesome. But there was, despite finally feeling like I had like proven that I could play this society game, and I had, this external success, there was internally quite a mess. And internally, I really questioned, who am I? What is my purpose? And I know that life can't continue to go on like this, but I don't really know, what the next step is. I'm not clear on that. And I don't know who to talk to about these kind of crazy thoughts that I'm having in my head. These thoughts of, I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not funny enough. I'm not, X enough, whatever that X is, it would change. But I really had some deep shame and limiting beliefs and fears about, not being enough. And at some point, I was like, okay, I realized you can set goals, and there's if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish stuff. So I was like, this is amazing, right? And I'm not just going to succeed, in the world. I'm going to succeed in creating my life the way I want it to look. And so I'm I actually had this thought, this intention. I'm going to make $2 million a year. And I was 21, I was making $40,000 a year. It's not like I was some Silicon Valley, Mark Zuckerberg, I was a regular dude. And I'm I'm going to make $2 million a year. And I'm going to be in an amazing relationship. I had never been in a relationship. I was, even up until I was 24, never happened. And no matter how much goal setting I did, I ultimately just ended up disappointed, frustrated, and even mad at myself that I allow myself to go for it, because it just ended with some type of letdown, just exploded back in my face. And it wasn't until I had this one insight that changed all of that. And I'm going to share with you that insight right now, because this is really the core of what I do and why I'm here on this planet. This is the work that I'm committed to doing, while I'm alive, and maybe after. We'll see how that goes. But this was the insight. And anything that I wanted to achieve externally could only be accomplished by working internally. And what that means is, instead of going out there and doing more productivity hacking or more, goal setting or these external things, actually, to create what I wanted, I needed to get really present, slow down, and go inward and upgrade my operating system, upgrade kind of, my beliefs and my inner workings. And the way I can describe this, and I think will make a lot of sense, is if you want to see how tall a building is going to be, the quickest way to know is to look at how deep they dug the foundation. So if you want to build a skyscraper, right, you can't build it on a regular floor. You wouldn't just start there. You know that you got to dig deep, deep into the ground in order to create the foundation to build a skyscraper. And the same thing is true for our life. If you want a skyscraper of a life where you are feeling fulfilled, an amazing relationship, getting paid to do what you love, really feeling like this is what I'm here to do, right? If you want that skyscraper of a life, you got to go deep and dig an inner foundation. And that takes time, takes patience, takes wise guidance and mentorship from places you're not going to find in general society. Because general society is going to tell you, it should be quick and easy, or all these kind of messages. Consumerism, it gets us feeling like we're not good enough, or it should have happened quicker. So the same analogy carries forward to like a tree. If you think about, if you have a mango tree and there weren't enough mangoes being produced on the tree, you wouldn't go work on the branches if you wanted more mangoes, right? It'd be silly. You'd have to work on the soil, on the foundation, on the watering of it. And it's the same thing in our life. We want all these external things. We want clarity. We want, confidence. We want results. And we look externally, or we look kind of surface level. But I want to help you go really deep and master what I call your inner game. So I'm gonna pivot back to the slides that we have here with our homeboy Albert Einstein, and let's jump in. Let's get started today. Oh, and so, I'm not like some business guy who's like, run businesses my whole life, right? So like, I know I just painted the before picture, right? And now I'm going to show you a little bit like what immersing myself in my inner game has allowed me to do. Okay. I'm going to like show you how awesome my life is now, just to give you a little bit of like, before and after. So I'm in a relationship that I've always wanted to be in, my beautiful lady. And here we're doing some traveling and fancy shit and not fancy shit. This was at a retreat I led. Traveled the world. I've been all over. This is Thailand. This is Austria, Kuala Lumpur. Burning Man. Talk about needing inner game. There is no way I would feel comfortable, in boxers and boots. But this was one of the most fun trips of my life. This is Colombia, where I lived for a few months about 2 years ago. I've become friends with my idols. It sounds crazy to say this, but like the books that I would read on my shelf and say like, "Who? These people are amazing." What? Like this is my friend Brian Johnson and his wife. This is Steve Chandler, another friend who I've done a lot of work with. Mastin Kipp, huge person in the personal development space, and I should put a picture of Phil in there as well. But literally dozens of people who like, I have a vision board somewhere in my closet from 7 years ago. And it was like, I wrote, become friends with people who are the best in the world at, at doing what they love and helping people. And I didn't know anybody at that time, not one person. And it's just crazy, when you really commit to the inner game work, you can do amazing things. And, I've created a business that's impacted thousands and thousands of people, and 99% of that has been online. But these are a few of the physical things that I've done in person, different events and retreats. This is in Bali. This is in Portland. So, basically all this is only possible because I was able to get past that anxiety and that fear and these deep limiting beliefs that would have stopped me. And, I've, as a result, learned to master my mind and really find my blind spots and just create a deep confidence in myself. So I've already said my mission is to help people master their inner game. And the reason for that is really because whatever goal or dream or desire that you have, whether it's to write a book or leave your job or travel the world, become financially independent, create an amazing relationship, like whatever your heart desires, like success always comes down to inner game. And we live in a society that hates talking about it. It loves talking about success as either you're born with the talent or you're not. Like like our society makes success like this, like Disney fantasy, right? Of like, oh, you either have it or you don't, right? And it just doesn't work that way. It's all about inner game, and anybody can cultivate it. So my intention here is to make the next 3 months the most transformative 3 months of your life. That's my intention. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how to do that later on in today's webinar through mastering your inner game. And now let's jump in, okay? Let's talk about clarity. Most people think that most people think that lack of clarity is the problem. And that if they finally got clarity, that their goals, their dreams, their desires would come true. But seeking clarity is often nothing more than mental masturbation. That's right, mental masturbation. And I'm going to explain to you what the real issue is towards the end of our workshop today. Because, if you don't understand the real issue behind where your search for clarity actually comes from, then even if you get clarity, it's just useless. It's all outer game stuff. But before I explain, the real issue, I do want to deliver what I promised you. I promised that I'm going to teach you how to get clarity. So I'm going to do that. Okay. And then afterwards, we'll talk about the deeper thing that's going on here. So my question for you is, what's something that you're looking for clarity with? And really just choose one thing for the sake of today's presentation. You can go back and repeat this process and integrate, the wisdom that we share here and use it in your life. But really for today, just think of one thing. And maybe it's career, relationship, where you want to live, decision at work, where you want to take a trip. Just take a moment and say, what's one thing I'd like some clarity on? And now we're going to jump into the 3 golden principles that will help shift stuckness and create clarity. You guys ready? You pumped? Is anyone at home right now just like, all right, I'm ready, I'm pumped? Or are you just like, oh, I'm a little skeptical right now. I don't know if we're really going to be able to do this. You could throw some comments in there and I'll be able to see them afterwards, but Phil can see them now. And I see that we've got some comments. I get the notification when they go in. So awesome. And also say what's the one thing that you're looking for clarity with. Like throw that in the comments as well. It's always better when we have a group and it's really a group that will support you in ultimately achieving the success that you desire. It can't happen alone. So I really love the group participation. And let's jump on in. So principle number 1, the quality of your clarity comes from the quality of your questions. Okay, I'm going to slow down here. The quality of your clarity comes from the quality of your questions. So most people think that if they want clarity, they need to find answers to their questions. It kind of makes sense logically. It's like, if I want to be clear, I need to get my questions answered. But there's 2 big problems with this belief. The first is, if you're asking yourself a low quality question, then you're going to get stuck with a low quality answer. And I'll tell you more about the difference between a low quality question and a high quality question in a moment. But I just want to point that out. If you're asking a low quality question, you're going to get stuck with a low quality answer. And the second big problem with this mindset is that the real purpose of a question is not to find an answer. The real purpose of a question is to live into the inquiry and give you a powerful path to start moving down. Right? Most of society isn't aware of this. This is real next level inner game stuff here. The real purpose of a question is not to find an answer. It's to live into the inquiry and give yourself a powerful path to start moving toward. Because when you learn to ask high quality questions and then live into the inquiry, you'll start to move forward and open yourself up into insights and ahas and possibilities that you just couldn't previously imagine. Okay? So let's talk about some examples between crappy questions and quality questions. First, crappy question, and I gotta laugh, there's a poop emoji-con there. I had someone else, a guy on my team, Brian, what up, Brian, help create the webinar. And I said, why don't we put the little monkey with the eyes closed, I said, look, that would be cool. And then he went to design it and he put the actual little crap emoji-con. And I'm like, I guess that does fit in with what I'm saying here. So here's a crappy question. Why can't I ever seem to get things right? Like, no matter what the answer to that question is, it's going to be a crappy one because I'm not smart enough, because I don't work hard enough, because there's something wrong with me, because blah, 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 blah. It's just a crappy question. And a much better question you can ask is, what can I learn from this experience? Okay, you're going to start to see things, okay, that you just couldn't possibly see if you're focused on, why you suck versus how you can get better. Now, you may feel the urge to write all these down. We'll send out a replay so that, you can have all these questions and you can go back and we'll share them with you. So I'd love for you to really stay present here to what the thing is that you're looking for clarity with. And instead of trying to take notes and write down a million things, just say, oh, that one thing that I'm looking for clarity with, how does that relate to this question here? Here's another example of a crappy question. Will I be successful if I start my own business? Holy shit. The amount of pressure that you put on yourself with a question like that, like, am I going to be successful? Am I not? Who knows what's going to happen? How could you possibly predict that? It's just a horrible question. And just imagine the pressure and the tightness and the lack of freedom that you would feel if that was the question that was guiding your search for clarity. And instead, you could ask, how can I test my business idea for the least amount of time and money, right? How can I just test this out, right? Without the risk. Much better question. Again, you don't need to know the answer, but it's worth starting to live into that inquiry and try some things. Okay, should I stay in or leave my job? Crappy question. Much better question. What need of mine is not being met right now? Usually the reason we want to leave our job is we have an unmet need or desire. Let's ask ourselves, what is that? What might that be? Crappy question. What passion of mine should I pick? Again, and I can relate to this. There's all these different things you want to try, but it puts so much pressure on ourselves to get it right. And instead, you might go inner game here and ask, what hidden fear of mine is keeping me from picking any option at all? And I won't go into the depths of that right now, but I want to plant that seed. Another crappy question. Is this person the one? Better question. What conversation am I scared to have with this person that would help us understand each other more? So I want you to treat today's webinar like a buffet. You don't need to answer all these questions. Just pick the one that jumps out at you and just start to say, okay, how can I use this now? And you can go back and you can have these questions listed for the next time you're looking for clarity. But I have a feeling once we even go further into what I'm going to share with you today, you're going to get how this is, although this stuff is really powerful, you're going to start to get the inner game of clarity on a way deeper level. So let me share 5 fast path questions to stop doubting your ideas and start moving forward here. And what's a better question I could ask? That's always the first question you want to ask when you're trying to solve something or figure it out. It's like, what's a better question I could ask myself here? The second question is, what's a third option? Normally, we're choosing between bad and worse. It's like it's 1 or 2. Well, what's the third option? What's option number 3 all the way down to number 10? Let's open up ourselves up with a much better question here. And holy shit, we're going to start to get some clarity. Third question, forget what I think I can have. What is it that I really want? Most of us only allow ourselves to, get what we think it is. Most of us only allow ourselves to, think about and say, here's what I want if we think we can actually have it, because it feels disappointing and it feels like there's something wrong with us if we say, I really want that thing, but now I don't know how to get it. So we actually usually, it's not that we don't have clarity, it's that we don't really allow ourselves to own our clarity and own our truth because we think it's going to mean something bad about us. Next question, if my child was in this situation, what advice would I give to them? And you don't need a child to ask yourself this question. It's interesting when we need to step up, like when we have a child, it forces us to step into our king or our queen energy, right? It forces us to step up. And suddenly we embody a sense of wisdom because we need to, because we're being called to embody that wisdom. And it's really clear, we can give that advice to our child. So I invite you to remove yourself from the situation and just say, okay, if this was my child in this situation, what would I say? And the same thing with question number 5. What option would make me the most proud on my deathbed? We take a moment and, fast forward to the end of our life. Suddenly, the amount of likes that you get on a Facebook comment or what people think of you, it's not as important. You really start to think like, which decision would I regret not making? What is my, what option would I be proud of on my deathbed? So principle 1, the quality of your clarity is directly related to the quality of the question that you're asking yourself. And again, you don't need an answer to the question. That's not, if you're playing this Jedi game, if you're playing this game on a deep level amongst, the greatest of them who play this game called life, that a question is not about finding an answer. It's about giving you a powerful path to start moving down. Okay. So if you have a takeaway, I'd love to see, like, what was your favorite question from this principle number one? Just drop it in the comments, maybe an insight you had, or just which question you really like and you want to make sure that you remember. Throw it in the comments. Even take a moment to think about it right now. Okay, let's jump into principle two. The homeboy Einstein, you can't solve a problem with the same level of consciousness that created it. So most people think that if they want to solve their problem, that they should think really hard about it and keep going until they figure it out, right? Like, uh, they think, like, oh, if I just work harder on this, like I'll get further along. But really, thinking harder will often just make you feel more frustrated, more stuck, and more unsure of yourself. And I'm sure you can relate to that on some level. Like, sometimes it's just, the harder you think, the more frustrated you get. So it's as Einstein said, you can't solve a problem with the same level of consciousness that created it. And usually the times that we're looking for, clarity are the times that we're stressed, we're anxious, we're worried, right? There's something going on there that we're like, oh, I need clarity now. And if you're in that level, if you take a bunch of action being stressed and anxious and worried at that level of consciousness, you're just going to make a mess of your life. You're going to create more anxiety, more stress, more of what you don't want in your life. Because you're coming from that level of consciousness, you're going to create more of that which you are being. If I'm angry and I go talk to my girl, even if my girl's not angry, even if she's being a sweetheart and she's totally amazing right now, but I'm angry and I'm like, oh, well, why did you do this? Why did you not take the garbage out, right? Like, she's going to start to get angry because she's feeling attacked. And so the level of consciousness that I'm at actually is going to create more of the experience that I'm having. So instead of trying to, find clarity by solving our problems, the most important thing we can do is actually slow down, step back, and take an action that'll help raise our consciousness. And when you do that, your problems will start to melt away and clarity will naturally arise. Okay? So here's a model of consciousness that has changed the game for me. When I understood this, I was like, whoa, I already knew that, but I didn't have that model to like tell me that. And whoa, this is what I call the ladder of consciousness. And it's a model that I adapted from my friend Steve Chandler. So in short, and I do a whole entire section on how to utilize this and kind of use this every single day when I work deeper with my clients on inner game, but I want to explain the very brief part of it to you. And at the very bottom of the ladder is death. It's like the lowest level of consciousness. Like, you're just lights out, dead. It doesn't get much lower than that. Level up is fear. It's pretty much the next level after death. And then you have worry, anger, and these are very low levels of consciousness. Okay. And at the very top of the ladder, you have spirit. It's whether you're, believe in spirituality and kind of the universe, or you just, know what it feels like to be inspired. That's a really high level of consciousness. And then, love and, joy and creativity. And these are in no exact order here. But the interesting thing about this ladder is that when you're in a place of fear, you can only see as high as your level of consciousness. So imagine you're one rung up on the ladder. You can't see anything around you. But if you learned how to raise your consciousness to a level of creativity or joy or love or spirit, suddenly you see all these options and you have so much clarity that you couldn't possibly imagine when you're low on the ladder. So I want to teach you how to raise, your level of consciousness right now. And again, like this model, we just barely touched the iceberg of it, but essentially your purpose on this planet is to raise your level of consciousness more consistently, and is also to help others do the same. So the way that you have this ladder of consciousness, you can imagine another ladder to the side of it. And what you're here on this world, on this earth to do is help other people also feel more inspired or loved or creative or joyful. And you don't need to be a coach to do that. You can do that in any profession. In fact, I suggest that you do that in your profession, because we need that in all professions, not just some kind of coaching profession. So I want to share with you two inner game upgrades here. And if there's anything that's, really jumping out at you, I'd love to have you throw it in the comments just as we go along. Anything that you feel like, I really want to remember that, it can be really helpful for yourself to just write it in the comments here. And also for everyone else, it's brings us together. So here's a big inner game upgrade. The quickest way to change your psychology is to change your physiology. Okay? Imagine that you had a child, and this is the second time I brought up having a child, and there's no coincidence, because when you have a child, you're forced to step into that king energy or that queen energy, that fatherly energy, that motherly energy. It forces you to step up at your highest, okay? And on some level, that's what we're all doing, is we're preparing to be the best possible parent that we can be, even if we never want to have kids. That's your work on this earth, is to actually learn to reparent yourself in the ways that you never got parented, because your parents just didn't know how to do it, because they had their own shit that got passed down from their own parents. And by being willing to do the inner game upgrades, what we do is, we raise our level of healing and consciousness, so that we don't go out into the world and create more suffering for people. This is really deep stuff here, and I kind of went on a tangent there because I love inner game, but I'm gonna come back and just share some really practical things with you. So if you had a child and your child was crying and you didn't know what to do, because your child can't speak to you yet, right? What would you do? Child's crying, you're there. What the hell do you do? Well, you got to check the basic physiological needs. Does my child need more sleep? Is it tired? Is that what's going on? Is it tired? No, okay, it's not tired. Is it hungry? Does my child want to eat? Is it hungry? Oh, it's not hungry. Okay, does it need to use the bathroom? Bathroom? Oh, okay. We got to do the same thing with ourselves, okay? Because we're grown and big and strong, we can put our needs to the side, and our consciousness lowers, and it becomes a trap. We get stuck in fear, okay? So, did you get enough sleep? Did you eat enough good food today? Did you drink enough water? Do you need to use the bathroom? This sounds like basic ass shit, and it is, and we overlook it, and it's so foundational to having you show up in the world in the way that you're inspired to show up. So inner game upgrade number 2, it's pretty similar. The best way to change your brain is to actually move your body. Cold showers. You want to get out of your head, right? Feel unstuck. Holy shit, a cold shower would do that to you. And Phil has been doing that since I met him, and I always judged him for it, because I'm like, this guy's crazy. Who would take a cold shower? And at some point about a year ago, I was in a really tough situation, and I just needed to get out of my head and into my body. And I just started taking cold showers, and I was just like, oh God, this is the worst thing ever. And it's so healing. So cold shower instantly changes your consciousness. You can go for a sprint. You can do a 1-minute plank. Actually, I'm not sure if I can do a 1-minute plank, but you can try. 100 jumping jacks, meditate, exercise, get into nature, really anything to get you out of your brain into your body. Suddenly, you're going to start to see things so much more clearly. So again, my question for you is, what's been your biggest takeaway from principle number 2? Can't solve a problem with the same level of consciousness that's creating it. And just take a moment to think about that and drop a comment in the comments. All right, we got some comments rolling in. This is great. Let's move on to principle 3, because I want to help you guys understand. We're starting to go into some deeper inner game stuff here. But I want to help you guys get this on an even deeper level, because even a lot of this clarity searching that we're talking about is pretty surface level. So let me share principle 3, and then we're going to go into the inner game of clarity. So principle number 3, clarity is a result of action, not a requirement for it. So most people think that they need to know the exact right step before taking action. But really, clarity comes as a result of taking action, not before it, right? So if you just started to take some steps forward, even just one step forward, when you don't feel fully ready, you'd start to see things more clearly as you go, and you'd be able to adjust along the way. Another way to say this is, most people think that they need to be 100% certain before taking action. And let me just pause there for a moment and just remind all of us here that we are flying through infinite space at 67,000 miles per hour on a tiny rock right now with no inherent, destination and no apparent start. All of life is a mystery. Certainty is a psychological construct that doesn't actually exist. We've just made this idea of certainty up. There is no such thing. So if you're waiting for 100% certainty before you take action to go create the life you want, oh baby, right? That's going to suck. So I'll unpack this a little bit more, and then we'll dive into how we can actually help you with this here. So most people think they need 100% certainty before taking action. But really in life, you can't see what's around the corner until you start walking and actually get toward the corner. Then you can see shit. And if you never move forward unless you have certainty, then you'd never see the new options that present themselves as you go forward. So if you'd be willing to just start moving forward in any direction right now, you'd learn things that you just couldn't possibly learn if you were overthinking and staying still. So let me share, 3 inner game big ideas for you guys to apply this principle. Let me take a nice deep breath and build some anticipation. What do you think Einstein was thinking about in that picture right there? Okay, let's go. So big idea number 1, 60% ready is 100% good enough. 60% ready is 100% good enough. And we really want to beware of perfectionism. Now there's a longer conversation about where that comes from when we start talking about inner game, but we're going to stay out of that for time's sake right now. We just want to get rid of the idea that you should be entirely clear, because if you think about it, do you think that Gandhi was 100% ready to start his revolution, especially a nonviolent revolution? Like, hell no. Do you think that, a woman is 100% ready to give birth, right? Like, no way. Do you think a soldier is 100% ready to go to war? Never. But these are, very heroic and inspiring and courageous acts. And when we see somebody else do it, we just think, oh, they were 100% ready and they did it. And the reality is nobody is 100% ready to step into the next level of their greatness. But you feel that, that calling on the inside, and you say, okay, am I 60% ready? Let's do this. So here's big idea number 2. What's one step you can take to get out of perfectionism and into action? And it's an inquiry to live into. It's just like, what's the next step I could take forward here? And, I'll give you 2 hints. One is, what's one tough conversation that you may be avoiding? That's probably a really good indication of the next great step. And the next is, what's one tough action that you may be avoiding? Oftentimes there's 1 or 2 actions that, if we're willing to take these 1 or 2 actions that are probably the biggest pain in the butts, they would give us more results than if we were to take another 10 actions combined. So big idea number 3 is, how can you test your idea with as little risk as possible? Okay. So again, I want to get you into action. And, oftentimes we have like so much riding on the outcome of our action, like, our self-esteem. And we're like, oh, this is going to define if I'm good enough or not. Or we have like, our destiny feels like it's on the line. Like, oh, if this thing is successful, that means I'm going to be a success forever. That's all mental masturbation. We get caught in that place. It's not real life. It's a fantasy. It can get pretty damn dark if that's where you stay. So is there a 30-day experiment that you can run to test your stuff out? Or a 7-day experiment, 1-day experiment, a 1-hour experiment, 1-minute experiment, right? And then there's a quote by Nelson Mandela, he says, I never lose. I either win or I learn. And I'm so tempted to tell you about, why we stay away from failure and why we beat ourselves up when we fail, because we think it protects us to beat ourselves up when we fail. It's like, if I beat myself up first, then I can't let the other people beat me up without me knowing, because I've already done it first. And that's a very sad and and real hard way to live. And yet on some level, we all live there, even myself at certain times. So just being aware of it's not enough. We really need to, become conscious and figure out where that comes from and heal that part of ourselves. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. And then there's a quote by Emerson, and I'm laughing because Phil actually shared this same quote that we both love from Emerson at the last retreat I taught in Bali. Phil came and gave a guest presentation, and he said, all of life is an experiment. The more experiments you make, the better. Okay. So, what did you take away from this principle, that clarity is not, a prerequisite to action. It's a result of action. What's one insight, one thing that you liked, one thing that, you'd love to really make sure that stays with you? Just drop a comment, and after the webinar, I'll go back and read all these comments. And even once I get out of presenter mode, I can go through them and we can start answering some questions in a bit. So you can drop anything in there as it comes up. And yeah, cool. And now I want to talk about the inner game of clarity, because I've been talking a lot about inner game, right? You've probably heard me mention that shit like 24 times, and you're like, what's the deal? Why so much inner game? Well, again, it's what I'm here to do on this planet, is to help people. I've helped people quadruple their coaching business. I've helped people create a lot of money. I've helped people, create amazing external results. And that stuff is fun. But at the end of the day, it's not sustainable unless your inner game is on point. And even more so, when you have a sense of fulfillment and peace and love inside of yourself, you don't need to take action from a place of fear and I got to prove myself. You take action from a place of fun. And it's like, this would be amazing to go do. That'd be so cool. Let's do it. So let's talk about the inner game of clarity here. Okay. Most people think that lack of clarity is the problem. And that if they were to just find clarity, that they'd finally get what they really want. And they'd be happy, they'd be successful, they'd be at peace. But when we play the inner game, we realize that seeking clarity is not the answer, because lack of clarity is not the cause of your problem. Lack of clarity is a symptom of your problem. In other words, the search for clarity is the mask that your problem wears. It's how your problem shows itself. There's a deeper thing happening, and the way that it shows up in life, it's, I need clarity, okay? The real problem is not a lack of clarity. The real problem is, drum roll, the real problem is a lack of connection with your own inner wisdom. God damn it, you hippie Jacob, dude. What the heck? Go back to Bali. What is this inner wisdom stuff? Listen, I get it, right? Like, I'm born and raised in the streets of New York. I'm born and raised in New York. Like, I'm not some hippie dude. I'm a real street, smart, practical kind of guy. Lack of, we're searching for clarity externally or even in our head, obsessing over it. The real issue is a lack of connection with our own inner wisdom. And that's the wisdom of our intuition, okay? The wisdom of our gut. If you look at world-class performers, they're not in their head searching for clarity. They're making split-second decisions, and that's when they're operating from a place of flow, what scientists call flow, right? So the wisdom of our gut, the wisdom of our heart. Now, I won't go into depth about, how to do all this right now, but I do want to help for if you're like, what the hell is your intuition, right? Like, what does that even mean? I want to give you a model that, really made a lot of sense to me when I heard it. Your intuition is your future successful self giving you clues about how to get there. Intuition is your future successful self giving you clues about how to get there. So when you learn to play the inner game, instead of looking for clarity on the outside, when you learn to play the inner game, you stop searching for clarity on the outside and you start learning to hear and trust your own inner wisdom. And as you take action from that place, that's how you eliminate the self-doubt and you create real results that enable you to feel real happiness and success and peace. So here's an important question. Why do we avoid slowing down and listening to our own inner wisdom? Let me just let you take a moment to ask yourself, why do inner wisdom, take a moment, take a deep breath right now. Why might I avoid slowing down and listening to my own inner wisdom? And just notice what comes up for you. You know, it's normal. Most people don't know how to do this. So if you're feeling that, you're not alone. Most people in life feel that way. But there's two reasons, that I'll point out right now. Listening to our intuition might mean that we need to make changes, and those changes can be disruptive, they can be difficult, and they can be seemingly destabilizing. It's like, what if I need to leave this relationship? What if my intuition tells me I shouldn't be with this person, or I should go move to Zimbabwe and set up a nonprofit, or I should, do this crazy shit that nobody around me is going to get, and then they're going to judge me, and I'm not going to get the love that they've given me or the approval, and I'm going to feel alone. And if I'm alone, it's going to feel like I should die. Like, this is how our mind works unless we're really paying attention to our inner game. And reason number two is that, if we slow down and listen closely, we may be faced with some deep hidden fears that are there, some scary, disempowering beliefs, and some unprocessed emotion. I know, Phil, I know a lot of your journey, and I've admired and kind of didn't even fully understand it at points, is, processing a lot of emotion that's inside of you. And, to see such a powerful man slow down and do that, I'll even admit at some point, I was like, what the hell is Phil doing? He's a solid guy. He doesn't need to do this, as I've seen you over the last few years. And at some point I realized, holy shit, no, actually, it's these unconscious fears and beliefs and the unprocessed emotion that serves as, a barrier to allowing us to hear the deepest, intuition and truth and guidance and wisdom and success guidance that's inside of us. So we need to go in and process those fears and those beliefs. And when we do, we realize, oh man, these were the things that held the key to my greatness. My fear actually has, how can I best say it? It's like your fear has a desire. Your fear has a request, okay? And if instead of running from your fear, if you learn to treat it the way a parent would a child, and learn to go to the fear and treat it with a sense of love and say, okay, what's your request? I know you're here for something. I know you're freaked out right now. You really want something. How can I help? What would you like? There's a desire inside of your fear. But because we have shame is the experience that we're not enough. We don't want anyone to see those fears because we think like there's something fundamentally flawed with us. We think like, I'm just not good enough, and I got to try really hard to make sure nobody ever finds that out about me. And I know that you're saying this on the webinar, Jacob, but if you knew that one thing about me, that, molestation that happened, or the fact that I did this thing and my parents, divorced because of it, or, the fact that I cheated on this person, or whatever that shame is, or that I cried so much when I was a kid, or that I, was addicted to heroin, or like, I'm sharing some really dark shit here because one is I just want to make it safe that like, we're all human. We all have our secrets and our shadows. And these are the things that, stop us from tapping into the deepest guidance we can have to create the most fulfilled life. And, not only do these fears, blockade our inner wisdom, but they actually blockade our potential from coming out of us. So like the way that I see it is like, if you're human, you have an infinite amount of potential inside of you. Okay. And the same way that you have like, ears and eyes, and you're just born with that, you are born with potential that can come through you and that is inside of you. It's just there. We all have potential. And that potential, we can even just call it like intense energy, right? It's like intense energy is what our potential is. And because it's intense, we don't know how to deal with it. We're like, oh shit, this is really intense. And if we never learn how to deal with intense energy, we call it fear, and we push it down, and we don't let it come out of us. And as a result, it makes us feel heavy. I have slides here that will back this up, even though I'm just talking from my heart here. But when your potential gets stuck in you, it makes you feel really heavy and isolated and alone. It even make you hate yourself. People will kill themselves because they don't know how to let that energy, that potential that's inside of them come out. And what we need to do is we need to learn to alchemize and use that intense energy as fuel to push us forward, the rocket fuel that actually will propel us towards our greatness and the ultimate, way that we can show up in this world and make an impact and live the life that is going to be most meaningful for us. We've got to learn to harness our potential. We can only do that if we're willing to do, as I'm saying here, this much deeper inner game work to utilize our fears. Instead of getting rid of them, we want to utilize those. And that unprocessed emotion, when we learn to open up, we open up not just to our emotion, to our potential. So I'm going to fast forward through the slides a little bit here because I already said this stuff from my heart. But the pain of not living into our potential hurts so much that we need to numb ourselves out. And Phil mentioned that before we started today, right? We eat crappy food or we drink alcohol to celebrate, instead of to celebrate, we drink it just to cope. We scroll aimlessly through social media, all these types of things. So, fortunately, there are some very powerful processes that you can use to master your inner game. This is the work that I've dedicated my life to. Phil has as well. That's why we're soul bros. And you can live with that happiness and success that you really want and feel the inspiration that you really desire and get, to be recognized for showing up and actually making a meaningful impact. And I'm going to tell you about how to do this in a moment. But first, I want to bring myself back to full screen here. We're going to go a few minutes past the hour. There'll be time for Q&A if you guys want. But this is really important stuff. So last year I nearly died. Actually, Phil was there. Crazy enough. This is the first time I've ever told the story where someone was actually there. We were both in Bali, me and Phil, and I had just finished leading a retreat, my third retreat in Bali. And I got stung by a mosquito that gave me dengue fever. And I didn't know what dengue fever was, but it's a potentially fatal disease. And basically your blood platelet count drops to a severe level. And your blood platelets are the thing that stop your bleeding, right? They enable you to stop bleeding if you start. They clot your blood, right? That's what they do. So that if you start bleeding, you can stop. So yeah, basically like within no time at all, I was in the what do they call it? The ambulance, right? I was in the ambulance, went to the hospital, didn't really know what was going on. Kind of had to do play-by-play with the situation. And the short story is that I lost about 10 pounds in the time I was in the hospital. I was there for a week. And I had 104-degree fever, highest fever I've ever had in my life. And it was just crazy. Like my mom was getting blood taken because they thought I was going to need a blood transfusion. My family was researching global specialists. I had to drink this nasty ass papaya leaf juice that tasted like gasoline. And I had to drink like this much of it every day. And because Western medicine says there is no cure for dengue, and Eastern medicine and the hippies in Bali say, if you drink this shit that tastes like gasoline, your blood platelets will rise. And so I was like, it was just torture, like torturous. But I had a really profound experience during this time. And here was the insight that I had that was really profound for me. As all this was going on, I just realized, this isn't that bad. And that might sound kind of simple to you, right? But I just realized, when society had been telling us you need to go out and invest your money and your time and your energy in the stock market or a law degree or, some promising career, I spent all of my time, my energy, my money in investing in one thing, and that's my inner game. So I'm so passionate about it because here's where inner game saved my life. If I didn't have inner game in that situation, I would have got so stressed out about the situation that I was in that the stress would have just lowered my immunity and made me way more likely to actually die. But because I made peace with the situation on day one, I just treated the whole week-long thing like it was a meditation. Doesn't mean it was easy, right? But it was just a meditation. And I was like, all right, I got this. And, part of what happened during that time was that I asked myself this question and I said, if I could only create, one thing for the rest of my life, one last thing, what would I want to create? And picture me there, I'm actually going to go back to the slides right now, a little bit premature because I'm going to show you guys something. So this is me there. I'm on my, quote unquote deathbed. You can see I'm just not in the best shape. I won't go into the details of what was happening, but as I laid literally right there, I asked myself if I could only create one last thing in my life, what would that be? And right in this position, right there, I got clear. I'm here on this planet to help people master their inner game. That's what matters at the end of the day. Helping people make more money is awesome, and it's a fun side effect that happens when you master your inner game. But like, I'm here to help people, with the most deepest and powerful work that I can do, because life is not promised, and this could all be over for me before I know it. And I need to make sure that I'm making the biggest impact possible in the most meaningful way. And that's why I do what I do. That's why I'm here. And I said, okay, what I want to do is I want to create the most transformative program that I can create. And I've worked with people, a ton one-on-one or in small groups or, in retreats. But I said, how can I make this experience scalable? So it's not just limited to a few people, but that, I can bring this out into the world. And, I didn't want to create an information product. I'm not here to teach information, which is kind of why it's weird that I'm doing a webinar, because I don't like teaching information. Sure, I like teaching information only when I'm facilitating transformation. And that's very different than the mental masturbation of going out and just searching for things left and right, because really on a deeper level, we're not connected with our inner game. So I created this program called the Inner Game Immersion, and we had 25 people come through it year one. The results were amazing. All types of incredible things that happened. Created raving fans, and I got really clear. I'm here to do this on an annual basis. I don't want to rush into doing it again. I want to step back, take my time, make it even better for year two, and that's what I want to tell you about today. So the Inner Game Immersion is a 10-week training club where I bring together an elite group of people who are committed to their growth and to their change, and they want to get smarter and stronger and more successful both now and in the long term. And we do this through a combination of practices for mental clarity, for emotional mastery, for physical optimization, and for spiritual purpose. We dive deep. You can start to get a feel of where we went today. We dive deep into processes that will not only get you clear on your goals and help you optimize your energy, but to allow you to experience your biggest desires without the guilt. We'll uncover your blind spots and what's kept you stuck, and why you sabotaged yourself from reaching the next level, even if you're already a high achiever. We had lots of high achievers, Harvard graduates, six-figure business owners in the program. We helped a lot of people go to that next level. And we build the courage to help you overcome those hidden fears that are there, so that you can, get that momentum to keep you motivated and not be run by fear. And then from an outer game perspective, have the time management so that you don't feel so stressed and having to squeeze everything together. So we do this through an uncommon mixture. This is unorthodox, and I was definitely inspired by the work that Phil has done in the world. Again, that's why we're soul bros, but I really went unorthodox here. You're not going to find this in too many places, if anywhere else. And we do this through comfort zone challenges. We do this through mind training techniques. We do this through heart opening exercises and blind spot identifiers, productivity hacking practices, and energy optimization tweaks. It's amazing how much more you can bring to the world when your energy is optimized. Goal setting, results tracking, accountability, world-class coaching. You can't fail in this program, because if you fail, you're going to start to mess other people up, because we're all integrated as a system. So we know, right? You can't kind of slip into the dark spots here and stay away. You gotta recognize, that this is you stepping up. And I want to be clear that, we do this with love, not with judgment. As you can tell, I'm not here to shame you. I'm here to help support you in getting into your greatness and through some of the darker things that maybe are uncomfortable to look at. So, most people think they need more information, but, information rarely changes your life. And the seeking of more information, as I've said several times, is really just kind of mental masturbation. It distracts you, it makes you feel good temporarily, But ultimately, it leaves you feeling empty and unfulfilled in the long run, because information seeking is usually just fear on the inside that's masking itself as logic or being rational or responsible or whatever. It usually, is a lack of trust in ourselves. Not always, right? Like some information is good, right? I don't want to shit on information here, but it becomes a point where you just know this is enough. And what we really need is transformation, and that's where the inner game immersion steps in. And the problem here is that there's a part of you that is working really hard to make sure that you don't succeed and that your goals and dreams don't come true. Sounds crazy, right? But here's how it works. Your conscious mind says, I want amazing relationship. I want amazing business. I want travel the world, right? But your unconscious mind says change equals different and different equals death. Okay? Another way to say it is success equals different and different equals death. And that is our unconscious operating system, our unconscious mind. And you wondered why you've sabotaged yourself, or why you've done all the goal setting, or you've done all the productivity hacking. You've done all these things externally. Why aren't you where you want to be? It's because there's a deep inner part of you that's working hard to make sure you don't get there. Or if you do get there, that it's unsustainable. You burn out and the wind blows and it knocks you over because you don't have that deep inner game foundation. Okay? So what we need to do is we need to create congruence between your conscious mind and your unconscious mind so that they get on the same page. You can almost imagine your unconscious mind as like a scared child inside. And imagine if your conscious mind, right, you're like the king, or like you're like the adult queen, and you're like, we're gonna go there, but the baby keeps crying, and like you're like, baby, like stop crying, right? And there's like no amount of like yelling at the baby or ignoring the baby that's gonna make the crying go away. You gotta meet the needs of that child so you guys can get on the same page and do this in a way where it feels like there's flow and congruence and ease. And that's what we help you with in the program. So this is not an online course. This is an immersive 10-week experience that will call you to your edge. It's going to get your heart pounding. It's going to reveal your blind spots, and it's going to help you become the best version of yourself. And we're going to do that through powerful coaching, through community, through accountability, and through love. And when it comes to your inner game, another issue is that you can't see your own blind spots, right? You can't see your own hidden roadblocks. You can't see your own limited thinking. You can't hold yourself accountable. And if you want to outsmart that sabotaging part of yourself and get to real transformation, I invite you to apply for the Inner Game Immersion. And you can do that by going to playtheinnergame.com. Playtheinnergame.com. We're going to get started in February, so I suggest doing it now. We've had over 160 applications submitted. Holy fuck, hallelujah. What the hell? That's amazing. And if you're not sure if this is for you or not, what I would say is, trust your gut. Is there a part of you that's excited about this? And submit the application. I don't want you in the program if you're not a good fit. I'm not a rookie in business who just started this. As you can tell, I think, I come from my heart. And I know that if I, try to get your money when it's not a good fit, it's just going to be bad for everyone, because you'll be annoyed and then I'll have to deal with your annoyance, or you'll be out in the group and the group kind of energy will get poisoned. So I'm really committed to making sure that this is the absolute best step forward that you can take, is to rock with us for the program. And because of that, either me or someone from my team will speak to you directly. And even if it doesn't make sense for you to sign up, we're still going to make that a really powerful conversation for you to take your inner game to the next level. That's our commitment to you. So that's my spiel. I hope to see some applications. I'd love to get to meet you guys. And if you resonated with today, it would be great to see an application come in, or you can even email me, jacob@sensify.com. Let me unshare this screen and kind of come back here. I'm just going to put my username, put my email address in the comments, just in case you guys want to reach out to me personally. Phil, why don't you come back on and we can wrap up. There's Dude, did your wall fall down? What happened over there?
So I've moved from the nice room to the basement. So yeah, that's I'm in the bowels of my house. So well, first of all, thanks Jacob for such amazing wisdom. I have a couple pages of notes. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did, and yeah, really, really solid stuff. And just with regards to the inner game immersion, you know, Jacob and I have signed up to a lot of programs in the past. And I think the important thing, and we both come to this place as businessmen, as leaders, to be super discerning of like, we never want people to join something if it's not the right fit. That's not the game we're trying to play. That's totally out of alignment with our purpose. That being said, I know for me, when I saw something that was the right fit and I was afraid and excited, afraid and excited is kind of like that green light for me if I feel those two emotions, and I've gone for it. Generally, over the next 3 months, I've seen that those have been the most transformative things I've ever done. And I actually just signed up for a new program today with one of my mentors, because the periods in between while I'm doing my own inner work, and you guys know me, I do a ton of that and meditate a lot, and I have my inner floating tank now, and I read books. There's only so much you can do by yourself, and that's just the truth. No matter how crazy or passionate and disciplined you are, having a mentor, having a group, having a system and a container around you, it just makes it better. There's no way around it. So I can't tell whether this particular program is the right one for you, but what I can tell you is having that support and that community and that structure to advance your personal development is a shortcut. There's just no doubt about that. So just want to share that, and reading books and things like that is good, but at some point, if you're serious about achieving amazing results and really being a master in whatever you want to be a master at, you need to go to that next level, and it's joining some sort of program. So want to share that. Jacob, anything you want to add for the people that are still here?
I just feel the huge sense of gratitude for you guys. I see that we're still over 20 of us, and when I checked when we first started, it was pretty close to that number as well. So yeah, thank you guys for being here. Thank you for allowing me into your head and your heart. And hopefully we get to communicate in some way at some point, even if it's 10 years from now. We're climbing Mount Everest together and we see each other and you're like, Jacob, and do that webinar. But by the way, I don't climb mountains, right? So like, it's not like that's like I was walking down the street in Brooklyn and I happened to see Jacob. Like, it'd be a totally random ass thing. But I hope I get to interact with you and your soul. And yeah, Phil, thank you for creating a space where we get to come together and do this. So we will be sending a recording out for you guys, and yeah, much love.
Yeah, so I see Barrett asked, when is the playback so I can watch again? When do you expect that we'll be sending the recording out to people?
I will have that ready for you tomorrow, Phil, and then whenever you want to send that I'll have that ready first thing in the morning for you. So whenever you want to send that, that'd be awesome.
All right. Well, we'll use take advantage of the time difference between New York and Colorado, so that I'll have that in my inbox when I get to work, and I'll make sure to send it out. Yeah, so guys, just tomorrow, if there's so much good stuff that even me, I was like, pause, slow down. I want to like reflect on this more. So definitely invite you guys, if you found some value, to go back and just especially working with some of those questions, those power questions. Take time to do the work. I highlighted 3 questions that I want to go and journal on, and actually do the work.
Could you share one of those questions? I'm super curious.
Yeah. All right. This is when I open the notebook. It's so funny that you guys can see this is where I've set up my new home office is in my basement. It's like super calm and quiet and no distractions, but it looks horrible on camera. So anyways,
I have a feeling your girlfriend, within the next year is going to change your office setup in some way. Like, I just have a feeling it's going to get a little bit more like cozy with good feng shui.
Well, she already did. We've moved everything around. It's the best we can do with an unfinished basement with like messed up walls. That's really the next level, but it's not my house. So anyways, enough about my walls. Let me share the questions. So and this is when I'll get super honest and vulnerable. What I want more clarity is, as you guys know, I've started a new website, new company called New Kings, and built a big thing with the Feel Good lifestyle. Now I'm kind of starting from scratch again, and I know this is my life's work, and I know this is even more powerful and potent than what I've created in the past. but I'm not fully sure how to share it with the world yet in the way that makes the most sense. I'm here in the mountains and all this stuff making sense in my head, but I'm not sure how to get other people as excited about it and to see the value. So that's where I'm still working through clarity. And so question number one is, what is it I really want? And by the way, guys, this is just a power question in any situation we feel confused. What is it I really want?
Mm.
And if one of your friends is confused and they're blah, 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 it's like, hey, stop. What do you really want?
Mm.
And that gets us back to like, well, and I'm not sure, I got to go journal on it, but what does that really want? And from that place, then we can move to the next level, which for me is, how can I most powerfully share my work with the world? How can I most powerfully share my work with the world? So from that place, it's not like, oh, are they going to like it? Or, does this make sense? These are low level questions. How can I most powerfully share my work with the world? That's a power question. Some great ideas and great inspiration are going to come out of that, no doubt. So that's number two. Number three is, how can I get people excited to join the New Kings movement? How can I get people excited to join this movement that I'm working on? And like you said, Jacob, those power questions, they're not necessarily like, oh, that's the answer. Like, that's a complex, that's a question I'm going to sit with for the next 5 years, hopefully. And I'm going to keep evolving my answer and keep adding new pieces to the puzzle. But how can I get people excited to join this movement? Man. All right, let me go think about it. Let me go journal.
Yeah.
So those are my three power questions, and really invite you guys to, come up with these things and, sit your ass down and actually journal and take, 30 minutes per question and go deep, and you'll start to see. I don't know if it's the same for you, Jacob, but when I journal, the first few lines are pretty bad. It's just like my mind chatter. And then eventually I start to get to the gold. It's like my soul comes online. I'm like, I'm writing. I'm like, yes, this is awesome.
Totally, brother. Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Thank you for sharing those questions. And yeah, appreciate your courage to open up. And of course, we're all secretly judging you right now because you did that. No, I'm joking. No, that was awesome.
I know.
Yeah. Way to hit a man when he's down, Jacob. I thought you loved people. No, that's awesome, dude. Yeah, and I love what you're up to and your commitment to helping people really embody this wisdom. And personally, I feel like there's another conversation for me and you to have privately about the king energy, because it's something that I'm up leveling with in my own coaching. Like, I just got off a coaching call literally 15 minutes before we got on our webinar today. And like, my coach is so about helping me to embody more of that like king father energy, even if I never want kids, to really come from that place in all of the interactions and to see how that's the game-changing move in every area of life. So we'll talk about that privately, and we'll talk about that planting a seed more in the inner game immersion if you guys want. But I'm going to sign off here.
Yeah, well, just before you do, I want to see, guys, are there any questions either about the program that Jacob talked about, or any other the concepts we've mentioned? We're happy to hang out for a few more minutes. So this is your chance, and hopefully we're not too intimidating. So please take a moment to think, and maybe read through your notes and everything that Jacob shared. There's anything that doesn't make sense, or that there's a window of opportunity over the next few minutes to ask anything, really. And like Jacob said, no shame. There's no bad questions. And listen, we're still figuring out things that, just constantly higher levels, but there's always new questions that we're asking ourselves. So, we just really appreciate it. So if anything pops into your mind right now, please write it down. And Jacob, I don't know if you're able to see what people wrote before, but there's some nice little shares that people.
I'll put it in the comments. Someone asked, what's the website again? So it's playtheinnergame.com. I like that question. That's a good one. Sounds good to me. Awesome. Well, let's wrap up here, Phil. If you could underline for us if you could underline just one single for us, think from this seminar, what would that be? That's a great question. So if I could underline one point for you from this seminar, what would it be? And I'm going to turn on my coaching switch now, And I'm actually going to ask you, if there's one thing that you took away from this workshop, what would that be? Okay, so if there's one thing that you took away from this, what would that be? And that's going to be a much more powerful question than what's one thing that I say, because it's just going to be more information if I say it. But if you actually dig within yourself, you can find something and get it on a much deeper level. Can you elaborate about the secret of the Dalai Lama?
I think that question is to me. You're like, what? I didn't talk about the Dalai Lama. Yeah, Antonio, I'll just do that real quick. So I'm assuming you read the article I posted today, and the idea is that there's two ways that we can be motivated to work. There's one, it's like, I want to make my life better. I want to make more money. I want to have more respect. I want to have X, Y, and Z. And, that'll get you decently far. But what I've learned over the last few years is that there's a deeper source of motivation, which is, how can I make other people's lives better? If I do my work, it's not just so I can get paid, it's so I can really make a difference in other people's lives. And the more I'm connected with the suffering that people are experiencing right now. I live in the mountains and I'm pretty isolated, but when I go back into the world and I just kind of feel and talk to people, like, I'm sure you know this, a lot of people are suffering, a lot of people are confused, like a lot of challenges in the world today. And if you can connect that your work, whatever it is that you're doing professionally, whatever it is your passion and you're sharing with the world, if you can connect your work with how it's going to alleviate suffering in people's lives and actually make their life better, and how it's going to create joy for them and people around them, then there's a sacredness to your work. It's not just, I'm doing this so I can get paid so I can, go buy myself pizza. It's like, wow, I was put on this earth with a certain talent and a certain set of skills I've built over time, and I can remove suffering from people's lives, and I can create joy and pride and happiness and success and progress. Whoa, this is pretty important. I better get to work. So that's just, the way I'm looking at it. So the more we can switch away from like, what can I get out of it, towards what will I give to other people, your work will be a lot more meaningful, a lot more powerful. And as a bonus, you will get everything you want as a reward, because your work will be so great, and it'll come back around to you in many ways.
I'm eating an orange.
I was wondering where you went. Like, oh no, I'm back on. Still chewing.
Well, I'm listening to the needs of my physiology. It's like, eat, go use the bathroom. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, let's continue to serve people, and I can do that at the same time. I didn't use the bathroom, by the way, but so, so awesome, Phil. I overheard what you were saying as I was getting my needs met. And yeah, that's another conversation that me and you definitely are both inspired by. Is there anything else that you want to address? Anything else while I swallow this orange?
Yeah, well, I'll just answer Gildis's question. So he says, so the question is, I feel I have a lot of projects and that a small step would start the avalanche. What would be the best thing to put in my mind to take action from tomorrow on? Great question. So there's a concept I created a couple of years ago with my friends, because we were in that place where we had all these ideas, and ideas are cheap. Ideas are dime a dozen, but actions make it real. But it can be intimidating. Where do I get started? So the concept that we came up with is what we call dumb action. Dumb action. It's the opposite of smart action. Because what paralyzes us sometimes is like, okay, I have this idea, I got to take action, but I got to make the right move, the perfect move. And that can be overwhelming. Like, what is the perfect move? I don't know. So to give ourselves permission to just do something, we're like, let's take a dumb action. Whatever first thing comes to mind, that if you did that thing, it would put you in the game, that's it. Dumb action. So it doesn't have to be brilliant, doesn't have to be like next level, like I did this one step. It's like, just do a thing. So whatever comes to your mind right now, that if you did that one thing, it would move the needle, that's your action right there. And then from there, action number 2 will reveal itself, and number 3, and then each step of the puzzle will be revealed as you take a step. That's all you got to do.
I love that. Dumb action.
Dumb action.
That's great.
Yeah.
Cool. I echo the same thing. I'm not going to add anything more, because I think that Phil just gave you exactly what you needed, which was just permission to take the next step. And that goes back to principle number 3, which is that, the clarity will come as a result of the action. So dumb action, right on.
Dumb action. Fabdin says, I remember a couple of years ago you had some kind of camp for personal development. Do you have anything planned soon? Nothing like that. I am working on a secret project, but that's pretty different. More in-person stuff. So I would say, Fabdin, if you feel like having some sort of personal development training camp is what would make a huge difference in your life, I would definitely invite you to check out Jacob's program. I definitely would not have brought him in here if I didn't trust him. And knowing him for the last 5 years, having talked to him on the phone so many times. For a while, we were talking every week, and we were kind of like coaching each other. I know his stuff. I know some of the people who've gone through his experiences, and if you're willing to do the work, he will guide you to a really good place. So it comes down to, are you willing to put in the work? Whether I'm coaching you and teaching you where Jacob is, we have a lot of parallels in our teachings. So the question is more to you. Are you willing to put in the work and dedicate yourself? And on some level, whether it's me or Jacob, doesn't make that big of a difference.
Amen, brother. Well, thank you for the warm words, and thank you to everyone who's still with us. We went deep, an hour and a half. Time is precious, so I appreciate it. Phil, thank you again for hosting, and I'm gonna send you a picture of me and you so you can hang it up on the wall behind you.
I do need to. I have Muhammad Ali here. I don't know if you can see, but I haven't figured out, guys. Personal development is what I'm really good at. Handyman work, not very good. So we all have our zone of genius and our zone of incompetence. My home decoration. So Muhammad Ali is just gonna chill on the floor.
Phil will help you with your inner game, not your interior design. Your interior game he's got on point, but we got it.
Exactly. So anyways, guys, well, thank you, Jacob, for sharing your wisdom with us. Thanks for coming in. Thanks, Barrett, Gillis, everyone who's still here. Really appreciate you. If you have follow-up questions, you have Jacob's email, you have my email, hit us up. We definitely want to keep supporting you. And once again, if you're feeling called by the Inner Game of Immersion, check it out, apply for the program, and have a conversation with Jacob or whoever you'll talk to see if it's a good fit. But at least take that dumb action and put yourself in the game, and then you can make an educated decision. So on this note, let's wrap it up. Let's go work on our power questions and put some foods in our bodies. So sending you lots of love from here in Colorado. Jacob, any last words, my man?
Peace out, homies.
Peace out. All right, guys. Have a great night. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Later.